The sky was eerily calm as Elon Musk's private jet sliced through the clouds. There was no warning, no sign of what was to come. Everything seemed perfect until the first jolt. The plane shook violently, throwing Elon's tablet to the floor. A deep, unsettling rumble vibrated through the cabin. Captain Dawson's calm voice crackled through the intercom, trying to reassure everyone, but the tension in his tone was unmistakable. "Hold tight," he said. "We're going through some rough weather." But this wasn't just any storm. Outside, the clouds had turned into swirling, dark masses, shifting ominously. The once clear skies now looked like an abyss, and the plane lurched again. Elon's heart rate quickened. He wasn't afraid of storms, he had flown through worse, but something felt off, something beyond the typical turbulence. Beside him, Leora Chang, his trusted assistant, remained focused on her work. But Elon could see the worry in her eyes as the plane dropped again. This wasn't a normal flight, this wasn't a normal storm. And as the plane descended lower, Elon realized they weren't just battling the elements. Something far more dangerous was about to unfold. What was supposed to be an ordinary trip had just turned into a fight for their lives. Elon Musk sat back, absorbed in the work on his tablet, unaware of the storm brewing outside. A sudden lurch sent his device skittering across the floor. The plane shook, rattling the overhead compartments. Captain Dawson's calm voice came over the intercom. "We're hitting some turbulence. Stay secure." But this wasn't just normal turbulence. The plane dropped again, harder this time, jolting them violently. Elon's grip tightened on his armrest as the sky outside darkened. Leora Chang, sitting beside him, looked up from her laptop, her calm demeanor shifting. The uncertainty was palpable. Something wasn't right. Captain Dawson's voice returned, now tinged with worry. "We've lost some altitude and the engine's giving trouble." A deep rumble filled the cabin as the sound of the engine faltering echoed. The cockpit crew was working furiously, and the smell of burning circuits filled the air. Elon's mind raced. What was once a calm flight was now a ticking clock. They needed a solution, and fast. Leora's hands gripped the seat in front of her. "What are our options?" she asked, voice steady, though fear lingered behind it. Captain Dawson's reply was grim. "There's a small island 40 miles south. It's our best chance. We may not make it far enough to reach another landing zone." A loud, grinding sound cut through the cabin. The plane banked left as the second engine sputtered and died. A thick silence filled the cabin, broken only by the strained breaths of the passengers. The descent became uncontrollable. Elon could hear the thumping of his heart. The island was their only hope. The plane hit the ground with a brutal jolt, metal screeching against the earth. The world spun violently as sand and debris flew up around them. Then everything stopped. The storm had passed, but their battle was just beginning. After the crash, the trio stumbled from the wreckage, their senses overwhelmed by the unfamiliar surroundings. The beach stretched out before them, untouched by human hands. The island seemed peaceful, but an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. As they ventured further, the silence of the island was broken only by the sounds of distant waves crashing against the shore. They began to trek inland, unsure of what they would find, but desperate for answers. The jungle ahead was dense and wild, but as they pushed through the thick foliage, the air felt strangely different. The trees around them seemed unnaturally symmetrical, their leaves a deep green, and many of the flowers glowed faintly in the dim light. The oddities didn't stop there. As they walked, the plants seemed too perfect, their shapes and colors too deliberate. It felt like they had stepped into a world that didn't belong. Leora knelt beside a cluster of flowers, her eyes widening. "These don't look natural," she murmured. Elon crouched down beside her, studying the plants. "You're right," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "These are engineered. Someone's been designing life forms here." Their attention was drawn to the ground ahead. Half buried in the sand, they found an odd, unmarked device. It was metallic, smooth, and unlike anything they had seen before. Elon bent down, brushing sand off the surface. The device hummed quietly, almost as if it were alive. This isn't just some random junk," he whispered, awe creeping into his voice. "This is advanced technology." They carefully moved on, following what appeared to be a man-made path leading deeper into the jungle. The path twisted around strange plants and towering trees that seemed to bend and shape themselves to guide their way. Every step they took revealed more bizarre discoveries. Bioengineered crops growing in perfectly organized rows, fruits hanging in patterns that were too precise to be natural. They had reached something beyond anything they could comprehend. And then they saw it. The facility. Hidden in the heart of the jungle it stood, an immaculate high-tech research center, shining under the canopy of leaves. The building's design was sleek, almost futuristic, and it looked completely out of place in this untouched wilderness. They stared at it in shock. Elon's mind raced, but before he could speak, he realized this was only the beginning. Whatever lay inside this facility would change their lives forever. The moment Vivian Cole entered the room, her presence commanded attention. She was the kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to take control. Tall, poised, and exuding an air of authority, her smile was warm, yet there was something about it that felt off. Beneath that smile, a far darker truth lurked. Elon, Leora, and Captain Dawson exchanged uncertain glances, instinctively sensing the danger that lay beneath her polished exterior. Vivian was not just any researcher. She was the mastermind behind the facility, the driving force behind the unsettling technology. With a calm, almost rehearsed voice, she spoke of her work, claiming that they were accelerating human progress. She described how their advanced technology could extract ideas directly from the minds of innovators, ideas that would take years to develop. Except here, they could have them in minutes. Her confidence was undeniable, but so was the chilling undercurrent in her words. She spoke as though she believed she was doing the world a favor, but Elon could see the flaw in her logic. They weren't just advancing technology, they were manipulating minds, controlling ideas. As Vivian continued, the tension in the room grew. The more they listened, the more they realized they were part of something far more dangerous than they had imagined. The facility, the technology, the minds they were borrowing. Everything about this place screamed manipulation and control. And then, Vivian extended her offer. She suggested a partnership. She believed that with Elon's innovations and their technology, they could change the world. But it wasn't just about collaboration. It was about agreeing to their accelerated process, their invasive methods. Elon felt his unease deepen. Something was terribly wrong. This wasn't just about ideas. It was about control, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to surrender it. Elon couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The more time he spent on the island, the more he started noticing strange patterns in his thoughts. Ideas that had seemed fresh were now feeling eerily familiar. It wasn't just his work being inspired by the technology around him. It was as if his thoughts were being shaped before they even fully formed. He had always prided himself on his ability to think ahead, to innovate, but now it seemed that someone, or something, was 2 steps ahead of him. The nagging suspicion grew stronger. What if this place wasn't just harvesting ideas? What if they were stealing his very thoughts? As Elon pieced things together, a horrifying truth began to unfold. The researchers weren't just taking inspiration from his mind, they were extracting his thoughts directly. This wasn't simple brainstorming. They had access to his mind. They knew what he was going to do next, what ideas he would have, even those he hadn't fully conceived yet. He realized that everything, every breakthrough he had ever had, might have been influenced, or worse, taken from him without his knowledge. Unable to hold back, Elon confronted Vivian and Dr. Finch. "How are you doing this? What kind of technology is behind it?" he demanded. Dr. Finch, calm as ever, explained the process of cognitive extraction, a method they use to bypass the slow organic process of innovation by directly accessing and accelerating thoughts. "We're helping ideas reach their full potential faster," he said with chilling detachment. The truth hit Elon like a punch to the gut. He and his team weren't just here by accident, they had been chosen to be part of an ongoing experiment where their minds were the laboratory. Their thoughts, ideas, and memories had been open for manipulation. And then it hit him even harder. His memories had been altered. The gaps, the confusion. He hadn't just forgotten parts of the past few days. Those memories had been erased, buried deep within his mind. Invasive procedures, ones he couldn't recall, had been performed on him without his consent. The stakes were higher than he ever imagined. With each new revelation, it became clear. Nothing was what it seemed. Their battle for control had only just begun. The truth hit them hard, but there was no time to dwell on it. Elon, Leora, and Captain Dawson knew they couldn't stay on the island any longer. Vivian and her team had crossed a line, manipulating their minds, stealing their thoughts. They were trapped in a facility that wasn't just built to research, it was built to control. Elon knew they had to act fast, but escaping wouldn't be easy. The island was isolated, and the facility was well guarded. "We need to disrupt their operations," Elon said, eyes narrowed with determination. "Use their own technology against them." With Captain Dawson's experience and Leora's sharp instincts, they set their plan into motion. They knew the facility's security systems, its weaknesses, and how it operated. They would create a distraction, something big enough to draw the attention of the guards, but not too risky. It had to be precise. Leora found a way to trigger the facility's main power source, causing a series of system failures. The lights flickered, alarms went off, and panic spread through the staff. With the security distracted, they made their move. The jungle was their only escape route. As they sprinted through the dense undergrowth, the sounds of drones buzzing overhead and guards shouting orders filled the air. They couldn't stop. They couldn't look back. Their plane was their only chance, and it felt like miles away. Every step was a race against time. The facility's perimeter was closing in, but they pushed forward, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The sound of footsteps behind them grew louder. They had to reach the plane before it was too late. They made it to the wreckage, but even as they prepared to take off, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. Something told him that escaping the island was just the beginning of a far larger war they were about to face. The plane roared to life, Captain Dawson pushing it to the limit as they barely lifted off the island. The once immaculate aircraft now felt like a fragile piece of metal, patched up with hope and urgency. The tension inside was palpable, but the relief of escaping the facility was quickly overshadowed by the realization that the danger wasn't behind them. As they gained altitude, Elon glanced out the window, but the feeling of freedom was short-lived. The sleek shape of a pursuing aircraft appeared in the distance. The same technology they had just escaped was now chasing them, faster and more aggressive than ever. Vivian Cole was still hunting them, unwilling to let go. Their battle was far from over. With Dr. Edwin Voss and his mysterious operations lurking in the shadows, the group knew they had to keep moving, always one step ahead. The very minds they had worked so hard to protect were now the most dangerous weapons in a war they hadn't chosen. This escape was only the beginning. The real fight for control over human innovation had just begun. What if the very ideas you held dear were stolen from your mind? This story forces us to think about the cost of progress and who truly owns innovation in today's world. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories filled with technology, suspense, and mind-bending twists. Join us for the next adventure. Stay tuned.